Okay, so we're beginning the third parak of Masbik Avodas Hashem, and begins Taras Hamasim, purifying the actions. Da, you should know. Kishomri Ator Nechlokim b'yachas l'maseim b'kim hamitzvos kamakitos. We've had previously understandings of different levels of understanding of how one does mitzvos. You know how much you get into mitzvahs. So here too, the Rabbi Avram gives us several categories in terms of how people fulfill mitzvahs. Shtayim mehem nogos mikotze kotze. Two of them are polar opposites. Ve'echad mehem and v'ashar b'tovech, and the rest are in the middle. It's not three groups; there are multiple groups. Kotze echad at one end, the bad end, nimna ha'oseh mitzvos mitoch hanufa. You have the people who do mitzvahs out of flattery. What does that mean? Shomer Shabbos, somebody keeps Shabbos or refrains from eating chametz on Pesach. Rak mir so only because he's afraid. Shema idu alav yanishu, because maybe people will testify against him and they'll punish him. So I'm not sure punish has to be literally punished and based in whatever the case may be. It's social ostracization. It's also a form of punishment. So many people only do mitzvahs because of what's called nowadays social orthodoxy or orthopraxy. This is an extreme example where a person only does it because of show. It's not because they're going through the motions as an automaton. They're doing it specifically because they don't want to suffer the consequences, either material punishment or the social ostracization. If he was sure that he would not suffer as a result, he wouldn't keep Shabbos. He wouldn't refrain from being chametz Pesach as well. Somebody learns her in order to become great in people's eyes. He'll have a lot of honor for some other purpose. Somebody davens a lot. Somebody bows down a lot. You know, there's Gemara talks about the 7 types of hypocritical Hasidim, and one of them is a person who davens a great deal. So that's a person does that in a very public and way, which makes him do a spectacle. So this is in order that Masi Blisha has tzitzis, he wears tzitzis and tefillin all day or whatever. Kedei shechshul chasid. In order to be considered a pious person. B'chol dem lezen, anything like that. Chachamenu zichrem livracha. By the way, here in the footnotes, it's interesting. He says that in Rabbi Avram's time, most people apparently did not feel they were on the level of Hasidus, and therefore did not adopt the behavior which we have today, wearing tzitzis all day. But it's not necessarily the case. It could be that he's wearing tzitzis outside the garments in a way which nowadays Hasidim do. But in any event, it's talking about when a person does something for the purpose of showing off. It could be just wearing tzitzis out for that purpose, also the same thing. Now, Chachamim zichronim livracha karo derech hazeh. Chazal called this derech yuhara. Yuhara means, in this translation, it's arrogance. It can also be translated as pride. It's related to gaiva, but the point is that it's an arrogant form of pride. There's certain things a person can be proud of, relatively little in Judaism, but there are things a person can be proud of. But this is arrogant pride which is meant to solidify or heighten one's position vis-a-vis others. Bilu and Chazal were very restrictive. The chashim mipanav, and they're afraid of it. The amru chashin al yura, when they say places that we're afraid that people should not take on minhagim, which are beyond them, chumras, which are beyond them, because we're afraid it's being done for that purpose of arrogant pride. They call a person does mitzvahs in this manner. Ose haTorah shelo lishma. He does the Torah, performs it shelo lishma. V'akasuv seichel tov v'chol osehem, and that pasuk which says that Torah is good. It gives good intelligence to all those who do it. Pershu, they said, lo sim lishma. The people who do it for lishma, lo sim shelo lishma, but not for the people who don't lishma. Well, seems shlo lishma, noachlem shlo nivru. There's also called for Chazal that the people who do Torah mitzvah shlo lishma, it's better as if they shouldn't be created. Now, it might be that in the Gemara itself it says it's specifically about a person who learns Torah on a lower level. I see he brings this down here in the footnote, in fact, that these are do that get a type of person who follow? No, he says follows the Torah. But I think there's some opinions that it's talking about Torah specifically. A person learns Torah shlo lishma amnas the content, right, for the purpose of arrogant pride. So he's better that he shouldn't be created. But he is extending to all mitzvahs. The person who's doing mitzvah for chanufa, it doesn't do anything for him. It's a very non-Kabbalistic approach, right? Because from a Kabbalistic approach, you figure at least in other mitzvahs, if not Torah, doing the mitzvah in of itself, the heft of the mitzvah gives a kedusha. But according to Rabbi Avram, a mitzvah done that way gives nothing. There are no benefits whatsoever. They won't even make a person the more refined person that Torah is supposed to do. Nevertheless, hadifu mitzvahs bofen zel al sheino saklum. Still better than nothing. Because we have a hope that someday he'll grow into a higher form of fulfillment. They say, persons very often comes from shalishma to lishma. But in truth, as long as people in this category fulfill the mitzvahs just for the sake of appearance, and their inside is not the same as their outside, like people who are empty from good deeds. Because the master of Torah, Hashem, he doesn't like, or it's not, I should say this like, it's not a good translation. These things which are done, Shlishma, do not have any completion. In other words, they're not considered to be beyond fault. They are considered to be faulty, corrupt, missing, lacking, and therefore, it says, it's not like a person sees. Person sees only to the eyes, and Hashem sees the heart. And this lost group is called the name of Chazal, Katz Chanefim, the group of arrogant, haughty people. And they are enumerated with the four groups: Kas Chanefim, Kas Shakranim, Kas Mesapri Loshen Hara, and Kas Leitzonim, which in Hebrew I learned many years ago forms the acronym Chashmal. Chanfonim, Shakranim, Mesapri Loshen Hara, and Leitzonim. So it's an easy way to remember it. It's the Chevrat Chashmal, the electric company. Ra'il Davrin HaKasuv, and there's evidence of Pasuk Eov, Ki lo l'fanav yavo chanef yavo. Person of this sort does not come before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ve'ein pi tachlisein Allah, and it's not according to our lofty purpose in writing this book, even to warn against this. It's beneath our dignity to even imagine anybody's learning Hamaspik Lo'evdei Hashem. The Rambam is going to have this issue. Okay, now he goes to the flip side, the complete, utter, and total flip side. Madregas HaTaragmur, the level of complete Tahara. V'akasa no gedas v'akasa, the opposite group is he shalator b'shleimus aitai Taragmur b'masav, is the one which is tar in perfection through complete purity in its deeds. Uvarmi tahor. What do I mean by tahor? It doesn't mean that he goes to the mikvah. It means iskamati shetei pnimiuso, means that his inner essence b'kiyum ha-mitzvos, and the mitzvah should be mechuvenes, should be directed to Hashem Yisrael, should be directed to Hashem and not at human beings. Shemimelo ki b'nei ha'adam ro'imoso, because if he thinks that people see him ka'ovid Hashem v'yirei shamayim, like he serves God and he's God-fearing, v'osim lo kavod harbei, and they give him great honor. V'tov navsho pnima varmo soserzos, if he sees all that, people give him accolades, and people praise him, and people give him honor, and he feels that in his soul that there's this, as a result, there's something which might contradict his lishma, such a person, as Yozu Pachad Oda, going to be perceived with fear and trembling. On the contrary, this person, if he sees, if he thinks that people see him as being damaged, and that his chassidus is superficial, his piety is not sincere, but internally he's at one and whole with his creator, they won't pay attention to them. So in other words, this person has reached a very high level of equanimity. And it's not just that he doesn't care what happens to him, what people think about him, but he would prefer that people don't think about him in a positive way, because then it can affect this entire avodah. He's afraid of that. Therefore, those who say that my portion should be not just with those people who are neutral or are not affected, but with those people who are suspected of something or innocent of that thing. Now, this is an extraordinarily high madrega, because it's really it has to be a person who is on a level where he feels that it's not going to affect him with any degree of bitterness or any degree of consternation. That's a high madrega and a rare one. But that's the idea of he would like to be suspected, and it would not be not going to be something which is going to have any effect on him. And he's going to give some examples, not quite yet. Of course, it doesn't mean you go and make yourself suspicious. It could be you think that the mitzvah, okay, let me go do something which make people suspect me. On the contrary, on this they can warn. And they said if a person has to fulfill his obligation to be a mensch, to be perceived as a mensch, as an upright and good person. So it says here, Shema says, Yisrael, very famous pasuk. By midbar, a person should 11 base. Person should be clean both before God and before Israel. There's a saying in Yiddish, a phrase "zu Gott and zu Leid," to man, which means to God and to men. It means rather if a person conducts himself appropriately and his inside is like his outside, so then he won't pay attention to people even if they suspect him about something which is not true about him. Okay, so again, it's not to seek out the suspicion, it's not even necessarily to desire the suspicion, but it is to be okay with suspicion if unfortunately it does arise, which it happens. People who are great Gedolei Torah, we know, have sometimes been subjected to suspicions and to denigration, and the great Gedolei Torah who are great Balei Midos are not affected by it. Not saying we're on that level, but there were people like that. I'm sure there are. And on this, I need to say, a person who has this kind of heart. Amar David HaMelech, Hashem said, "B'choneni Hashem v'naseni." Test me, Hashem, and examine me. Sorfa kiliyosai v'li be, refine my innards and my heart. Vodamar chakreni kel v'dal vavi. He also said, analyze me, explore me, Hashem, and know my heart. B'choneni, and check me out. V'das harapoy, and know my thoughts. So David HaMelech, he actually, we know this which expounds on this, he actually asked Hashem to test him because and it says that it's because he wanted to, people say, okay, Avram, okay, it's okay, Yaakov, okay, David. So ultimately he failed with Bathsheba, so he wasn't, we don't do that. But the Maisa, what he's trying to attain is that his heart should be completely pure and that it should be equal in its demonstration of divinity to what he displays on the outside. Uvamit Tara Gemura. Now, Rabbi Avram explains for it. When I say complete Tara, Diskamati, I mean Shumasov, his deeds should be no Safayusam Tarim Klape Hashem. So besides being pure vis-a-vis Hashem, Nasim, in other words, everything is done Kedos Kedin properly with the right motivation. It's not enough. Nasim Gamitoch Ahavot Tahora Lo Yisaleh. They're done out of pure love of Hashem. Nasim Milui Chovas Hatzius Lo, and the fulfillment of the obligation to be disciplined, and this is what I wrote. Let's see who translates here. I don't like his translation. Follow God's command. To listen to what God has to say. In other words, this one is not the translation because the right translation because it implies the antithesis of love. But there's an obligation which comes out of love. A person, if your wife asks you to do something, you feel obligated to do it. So sometimes you feel even it's a pain and a hassle to do it, you're obligated anyway. But sometimes you should feel that out of love, you want to do this thing. The child asks you to do something. Same idea. Moshe Nemark is like it says, you were a slave in Egypt, and therefore remember to do this. Now, not because you're looking for the reward. Even though Hashem will certainly pay a reward. Also because Hashem is shomer habris v'chesed la'avav shomrim mitzvosav. Hashem preserves the covenant of chesed and love to those who fulfill his mitzvos. So the problem is, and the pasuk you just quoted, he mentions Zacharta ki ever isim Mitzrayim. So it sounds like it's an avdus again, right? Not avodim avo. So he stresses below yishmor mitzvos mipachad ha'onesh. You shouldn't do it because he's afraid of a penalty. Hagam shkoluvi yodol lifnei avon. He knows. Ki Hashem yisrael manish ksheinu mochel, that Hashem punishes if he doesn't forgive. Moshe Neymar says, Kel Kano, Hashem is zealous God, but Od Neymar, Kilo Yinaker, says Hashem will not cleanse you. V'Neymar, Poker Amorav El Sabanim, he visits the sins of the fathers and the children. V'Neymar, Shalem Sanova, he says he repays his enemies. Od Kayotz, etc. El Af Im Nomar Al Derech HaNacha, but if we say in the manner of an assumption, Ki Hashem Yisrael Yamani Shol Chaz Hashem, that Hashem would Chaz Hashem punish him. Gam Im Shamar, it's mitzvos of. In other words, let's say we had imagined that Hashem punishes you no matter what. Even if you do the mitzvahs, Hashem punishes you. Hypothetically, this is not true, but let's say we would imagine that to be the case. Even then he would keep the mitzvahs. Oloya manisho, gam avar mitzvahs, and even if Hashem hypothetically did not punish, then gam oz loya overlim. Also, then we're not transgress them. And why is this important? He doesn't say this here, but it's in light of what we learned so far in Rabbi Avraham and Rambam, because Rabbi Avraham would say those rewards and those punishments are for the masses, for the Hamonam, not for the people who are reading Hamas Bikla Di Hashem. The people the masses need to have an incentive, and the incentive which is given them is the reward and the punishment. If you are striving towards shleimus and you're striving towards the proper attitude towards everything, then you're striving to reach the level when you do Avodas Hashem, not because of the reward and not because of the punishment, but out of Avos Hashem, you do what you're supposed to do, and out of Avos Hashem, you refrain from what you're supposed to refrain. And coming back to the idea of avoiding yuhara, a person therefore should not accept upon themselves to do amile de chasidus, something they're not required to do, unless it's an expression of ava. Because if you want to go, the moment you want to go beyond the letter of the law, then you have to be very careful. The law is the law. That's the basis. Everybody does it. There's no question of pride. Not pride. That's what you're supposed to do. But you want to go beyond the letter of the law, so then intent becomes paramount. And then it has to be done out of ava, because if it's not done out of ava, it can backfire. It will backfire. It does backfire. Because of your law. So therefore, we're not finished with this madrega. We're going to stop here for now. We'll have a couple of paragraphs left in which he describes this madrega, and then he gets to middle madregas. But so far, we have seen the two poles, right? The person who's complete chanifa is completely hypocritical and just does mitzvahs for public consumption, and complete tara, where the public means nothing. The person does things out of love of Hashem without concern for any outside or public sentiment. Okay, so we'll stop here for tonight. And Mirza Hashem, now we've restarted. We'll continue Mirza Hashem next week. So have a good Shabbos.
Thank you.